think we're all right.
I think we're all right. All right. All right, we will call to order this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Show Low for November 28th, 2017. The roll call shows all commissioners present with the exception of Vice Chair Robertson, who's excused. The invocation this evening will be done by Commissioner Adams, the pledge by Commissioner Berry. If you would all please rise.
Our Father in heaven, we are very grateful to come before Thee this evening, Father. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to meet together as a council and as a community to discuss our beautiful area, beautiful town. We pray that Thou will be with us this night and help us to understand the things that are being told to us. And we are grateful for all that Thou does. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, we have no old business to deal with this evening and a number of items of new business to undertake. We'll begin with public hearing for consideration of a zone change request 605-03-110 submitted by Brian Savage of Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District to change the zoning of assessor's parcel number 309-52-015A from general commercial, known as C2, to manufactured housing, which is MH. Ms. Fechtelkotter.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Brian Savage of Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District, or TMFMD, has submitted a zone change request for property located in Fairway Park Center, Lot 15, more particularly described as APN 309-52015A, to change the zoning of the subject property from general commercial, which is C2, to manufactured housing, which is MH. The TMFMD currently owns a piece of property located at the end of North 41st Avenue, which is a cul-de-sac located in a residential neighborhood. Due to the merger of the Lakeside, Linden, and Show Low fire districts, a new facility being built in Linden, TMFMD no longer has a use for this property. In addition, the size, shape, and location of the property make use of this property for commercial purposes unlikely. However, because this property is zoned C2, a manufactured home cannot be placed on the property despite the fact that the property is located adjacent to other manufactured homes. The TMFMD has indicated that the fact that a manufactured home cannot be placed on the lot has made it difficult to sell this particular property. Typically, when a commercial zone is adjacent to a residential zone, they are required to screen the property with a 6-foot solid material fence. However, since this property is being rezoned to residential from commercial, staff is recommending that the southern boundary of this property be screened with a 6-foot solid material fence. The zoning of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, neighborhood commercial, which is C1, to the south, general commercial, which is C2, to the east, neighborhood commercial, which is C1, and to the west, manufactured housing, MH. The land uses of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, undeveloped commercial, to the south, Frontier Communications and Dollar General, to the east, undeveloped commercial, and to the west, residential. The Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District sent letters to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, invite them to a neighborhood meeting to discuss the proposed zone change. However, no neighbors attended the meeting. Staff mailed letters and subject property maps to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property and posted the property in accordance with state law. Staff did receive one phone call from a neighbor clarifying the nature of the request. Transmittal memos were also sent to all affected agencies and no applicable comments were received. After reviewing the standards for review, the City of Show Low zoning ordinance, discussions with the applicant, and because the request is consistent with the City of Show Low general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve zone change request 605-03110, submitted by Brian Savage of Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District to change the zoning of APN 309-52-015 from general commercial C2 to manufactured housing MH, and forward this approval to the City Council subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall comply with all federal, state, and local requirements. And 2, the southern property line shall be screened with a solid 6-foot solid material. Staff, as well as the applicant, are available for questions.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll begin up here with questions from commissioners to staff. Anybody? Okay, questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none there, and we'll go to the public. Is there anybody in the gallery who would like to comment on this particular issue?
Need to open the public hearing.
All right, I'm sorry, we will consider the public hearing open at the moment, okay. And I see nobody, so we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for a motion. Commissioner Bishop.
I move to approve zone change request 605-03-110, submitted by Brian Savage of Timber Mesa Fire and Medical District to change the zoning of APN 309-52-015A from general commercial C2 to manufactured housing MH, and forward this recommendation to the City Council.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Commissioner Barron's. Any further discussion? And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. Mr. Tregaskis, would you?
This item has been scheduled for a public hearing with the City Council at their next regularly scheduled meeting.
All right. We'll move on to the second item on the agenda, which is, I'm going to do it my. Consideration, I got it, thank you, sir. I put it in the wrong file. All right, which is review of conditions pertaining to a conditional use permit at 602-04-187, submitted by Shane Hall of ST Hall Investments to allow for rehabilitation housing located at 1201 East Cooley, that being assessor's parcel numbers 210-27-001A, 002B, 003C, 004D, 005E, 006F, 007G, 008H, 009I, and 010J. Ms. Vector-Cotter.
Thanks again, Chair and Commissioners. At the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission held on March 2nd, 2016, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved conditional use permit 602-04-187, submitted by Shane R. Hall Investments to allow for rehabilitation housing located at 1201 East Cooley, that being APN numbers 210-27-001A, 02B, 003C, 004D, 005E, 006F, 007G, 008H, 009I, and 010J, with the following conditions. 1, all development shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements. 2, a building permit shall be obtained for the conversion of any suite to residential use. A certificate of occupancy shall be issued prior to residential use. 3, parking lot lighting meeting the requirements of Section 15-146C2H shall be installed prior to the certificate of occupancy being granted for a residential use. 4, this conditional use permit is the conversion of Suite H only. Any additional residential units will require amendment to this conditional use permit. 5, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review this conditional use permit at 3, 6, and 12 months from the date of residential occupancy to determine if the use is compatible with the neighborhood. If at any time it is determined that the use is incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood, the commission may revoke this conditional use permit. 6, all occupants shall comply with the rules provided by Blue Vase Recovery Center and as included in the part of that packet. 7, the applicant shall be responsible for ensuring that the existing parking lot and landscaping are maintained in accordance with city code. A certificate of occupancy was issued for the property on July 26, 2016, per condition number 2. Since that time, staff has received no complaints from adjacent property owners or residents. The Show Low Police Department also confirmed that there were no complaints against the subject property from July 28, 2016 to the present time. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted reviews of the CUP at their November 26, 2016 and February 14, 2017 meetings. No adverse comments regarding the subject property were heard at either meeting. This will be the final review for this conditional use permit. Staff recommendations are based on the fact there have been no issues or complaints regarding the subject property since July 2016. Staff recommends that the current conditional use permit remain in effect. For condition number 5, no more scheduled reviews of this conditional use permit will take place. However, additional reviews may be scheduled in the future if it is determined that the property is in violation of the required conditions of approval.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, commissioners, any comments or questions for staff on this particular issue?
I asked the question, has there been any complaints or anything involving this property?
We've checked with the police department this time, same as we have the other 2 reviews that were conducted. They have received no complaints related to this property. No calls of service either.
Thank you. My only question is, since what happens going forward, since this is our final review, were something out of the ordinary to occur?
So with any conditional use permit, the commission always has the option, should there be violations that are determined to be in place, the commission always has the option to review that conditional use permit for compliance, and ultimately, if deemed necessary, may revoke the conditional use permit. So should there be an issue sometime in the future, you guys certainly could revisit this.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further questions of staff? Any questions for Commissioner Clark?
I'll just make a comment. I've noticed that the Blue Vase Recovery Center has been involved heavily in the community. I've been to Trunk or Treat, the 4th of July celebrations and all those kind of things, and they seem to be making a substantial effort to be involved in the community and helping out. So, Mr. Hall, I know that you're involved in that. I applaud you and your entity for taking a proactive approach of being community members and getting involved. So I'll just make that comment. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Hall, the applicant? Okay, seeing none. I'll open the public hearing for this issue. If there's anybody in the audience who has a desire to comment on this particular issue, you can come forward now at this time. And seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Do we need a, okay.
No actions necessary on behalf of the commission at this point.
Okay. That brings us to item C, under new business, which is consideration of conditional use permit 602-04-199, submitted by John J. Clute Jr. on behalf of Vape Militia, LLC, to allow for a vaping lounge at 4431 North White Mountain Road, that being assessor's parcel number 212-03-1 2025-157E. Again, Ms. Spector-Cotter.
Thanks again, Chair and Commissioners. Conditional use permit, or CUP 602-199, was submitted by John J. Clute Jr. on behalf of Vape Militia LLC to allow for a vaping lounge located at 4431 North White Mountain Road, that being APN 21003-157E. The applicant has proposed to open a vape shop where, in addition to purchasing vaping products, customers would have a place to vape. A television, couches, pool table, and other similar amenities may be provided for customers to utilize while they are vaping. The proposed hours are from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. on weekends. The applicant stated that they will not be selling tobacco or marijuana-related paraphernalia. The subject property is currently zoned C2, General Commercial. City Code does not specifically address vaping lounges. However, City Code states that pool, billiard halls, bars, taverns, and cocktail lounges require a conditional use permit in the C2 zone. And because of this, staff has determined that a vaping lounge would require a CUP. The current zonings of the surrounding properties includes to the north and south, C2 General Commercial, to the east, C2 General Commercial and PUD Planned Unit Development, and to the west, C2 also General Commercial. The current land uses of the surrounding properties includes to the north, Park Pineway Shopping Center, to the south, Commercial, to the east, Park Pineway Shopping Center and White Mountain Vacation Village, and to the west, Commercial. Transmittal memo were sent to all affected agencies, and applicable comments received include from Navajo County Health Department, and they stated that they do not regulate vape shops or lounges. The property was posted, and letters were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and no comments were received at the time the staff summary was prepared. After standards for review, the zoning ordinance discussions with the applicant, and because the request is consistent with the City of Show Low general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve CUP 602-04-199 submitted by John J. Clute Jr. on behalf of Vape Militia LLC to allow for a vaping lounge at 4431 North White Mountain Road. That's actually south. Sorry, that being APN 212-03-157E, subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements, including building permit and sign requirements. 2, ventilation shall be such that no vapors or odors are discernible to adjacent businesses. 3, hours shall be limited to 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on weekends. No one under the age of 18 shall be admitted unless accompanied by a parent or guardian, and they shall not be allowed to remain in the vaping area. This conditional permit is non-transferable. Should ownership of the business change, a new conditional use permit shall be required.
Thank you again, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a couple clarifications.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the address should be 4431 South White Mountain Road. The parcel number is correct, and the notices were sent out based on the correct location. We should have referred to it as south rather than north. Secondly, Ms. Spector-Cotter referred to that we had received no phone calls when the staff report was created. We had Thanksgiving, so we had to prepare this report extremely early compared to how we normally would. We did receive several phone calls following this staff report. They all were asking for clarification, whether a new building was going to be constructed, that type of thing. None of those phone calls indicated any opposition to this project. So just to bring the commission up to date, didn't want to misrepresent that we hadn't received nothing. We did. It was just after we'd already prepared this. So.
Thank you for the clarification, sir. All right. How about we begin with questions of staff? Commissioner Adams.
My question would be on the ventilation. Will there be an inspection to make sure that's done properly and done to meet the standards? I'm worried about about that and the other tenants there? How does that take place?
So this property, they share common walls with a drop ceiling. And it's my understanding that the common walls do not extend all the way through the ceiling to the roof of the building. That's open in the attic area. The concern being that odors could go up through that drop ceiling and perhaps over into the adjacent suites. Any type of electrical, any sort of fans or vents that they would put in, that would require a building permit. So we would inspect that as part of that permit application.
So they would have to go through that process in extending the walls up and making sure that that's.
Don't know that they need to extend the walls up. That's a pretty significant endeavor to take care of that. If there's other ways that they can take care of and ensure that those vapors, odors are not going into the other businesses, that would certainly be acceptable and would fit this requirement.
Other questions for staff? All right, questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, we'll open it again for public commentary. If there's anybody in the, all right, sir, would you please come forward and identify yourself for the record?
Hello, council. I'm Terry Major. I live in Show Low at 100 West Suncrest Court. My concern is I don't know what vaping is. Is this a hallucinogen type of vaping are we talking about? Or are we talking about something that is going to be an intoxicant to any of the neighbors and or an 18-year-old that is coming into the adjacent area? Is this essentially going to be a vaping chamber, or I'm not familiar with what this is.
Okay, I think we'll need to bring the applicant forward to talk, to address those issues. Legitimate question. I mean, it's a relatively new phenomenon, and there are a lot of folks that aren't particularly familiar with it. So thank you for bringing it forward, and we'll have the applicant come forward and see if he can't address your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I know you have identified yourself for the record, but please do so again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is John Clute. I'm a managing member of the Vape Militia Shop. I think that's a very good question that the gentleman posed. Vaping is basically an electronic cigarette type of thing. One of our goals with it is to help people get off of cigarettes, tobacco, and it's a good way to wean them off of it. Our intent is not to take an 18-year-old and turn them into a smoker. We did a lot of research. We have another business up in Lakeside, nothing to do with this, but we don't want to start people on things. There are a lot of people who vape. We talk to a lot of people just being around Show Low, and I saw people, I stopped at the Circle K to get a coffee, and I've seen some people, and I said, "Are you a smoker, or you vape?" And we got a lot of response that says that they don't have the best place that they can, or they don't care for what's around to get whatever their supplies are and things. So our intention is not to hook people on anything. It's not hallucinogenic. It's a water vapor. It's mixed with flavors. It can have nicotine mixed with it. People who smoke generally start out with a little bit and wean off of it, trying to get off of cigarettes. So I hope that answers the question of the gentleman, but it's our intent is not to hook anybody, or we're very strict about no minors. That's not the intention. And also, when I put in the application, I was trying to rush it because I was in negotiations for the suite, and the vapor thing was very in the forefront with the landlord, and we discussed it as you stated. and we intend to stick to that, and we have to with our lease. So
Okay.
we'd very much appreciate if you would approve it and let us open our business. And the pool table was just a kind of an afterthought. We do need a place to sit and educate people on how to use it safely, things like that.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Further questions for the applicant? Okay, further comment from the public. We'll close the public meeting portion then and bring it back to the council for a motion. Seeing no one jump up, and we'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve CUP 602-04-199 submitted by John J. Clute Jr. on behalf of Vape Militia LLC to allow for a vaping lounge at 4431 South White Mountain Road, that being Assessor's Parcel Number 212-03-157E, subject to staff recommendations. Do we have a second? No second. All right, since I've been doing this 9 years now, and we've never had this situation arise before, you need to advise me on how to proceed, sir.
So at this point, the commission can discuss, what are the concerns? If there is no motion to approve, then essentially it would be declined based on no action. And so if there's concerns that the commission has specific to this, they would need to kind of discuss and determine what it is and if those can be resolved.
Okay. My only comment would be, and I've raised it before when we've had similar sorts of situations, meaning there might have been some concern about our attitude towards the business itself. And I would just remind my colleagues that that's not our role. Our role is to decide whether or not the business, irrespective of our attitude toward it, is consistent with the location in which the applicant wants to operate the business. So if we can, I would just ask you guys to take that into consideration. If your objections are otherwise, then that's okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could also clarify, the use of the property as a vape supply store would be consistent with a permitted use in our C2 zone. We would consider that similar to a tobacco shop, which does not require a conditional use. The reason that it is here before the commission this evening is because of the lounge component. The fact that they're putting in a couch, they're putting in a TV, they're putting in a pool table. They're encouraging people to linger perhaps after they have made the purchase. So that's why it's here with the commission this evening, not because they're selling the product. That would be considered a permitted use. It's because there's the capability of people to stay on premises and utilize the product while they're there.
Is somebody going to be verifying the age of those who come in?
So we want the applicant to address that, or does it? Mr. Clute, would you please come back to the podium? Commissioner Behrens, have at it.
Yes, ma'am.
My question-
I'm sorry. We intend to card people to make sure that the age is 18, which is the legal age to vape in the state of Arizona. And also, let me clarify that, you know, the term lounge, and I understand why it's used, we don't intend to have 25 people in there or 30 people. In talking to my son Levi, who's going to be one of the daily managers, is that 5 to 10 at the tops. We don't anticipate it being like a bar where people are going to sit around and be hours and hours. That's counterproductive to our business as well, because the staff, my other two partners, Jennifer, who's not here, is going to work in there, very familiar with it. They can't be tied up for hours and hours with other people. They have to help customers. So that's not our intent. I know the term lounge is used as kind of a collective term, but that's not exactly what we were thinking of it as. I don't know if that helps, but.
Okay. Question answered? Okay. Any further questions for the applicant?
I have a question. If you don't receive the conditional use permit tonight, are you still going to move forward with your, the store that's going to be selling vaping materials and
Yes,
that kind of
sir.
stuff? So it would just wouldn't include the lounge component to it?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We looked at a lot of locations. We looked in Lakeside as well. They had no conditional use permit, but we felt as though Sholo was a better location in the shopping plaza. And that's why we're here with this. It would be easier to go to Lakeside, but we think it would be better here.
Further questions?
I guess I just have kind of a question or maybe a comment. I just kind of have a concern about, how do I word that? Where you just got a bunch of kids hanging around, maybe teenagers or early 20s, and hanging around in the environment that would bring you into an area. And that would be my concern. I don't think that's your plan, but I think that could easily be the direction it could go, having where it's more of a headache for law enforcement and everything else. I guess that's kind of my concern with it, is the lounge part of it.
Well, again, that has been addressed with my landlord. I've had long conversations with his representative, Mr. Alan Zell. That was a concern, and we've talked about it, and it's not, we can't have anybody hanging out outside. We can't create any type of ruckus. We have neighboring businesses. We want to just be another good business in the town of Show Low or the city of Show Low. Our intent is not to have a hangout where trouble can start. We're not in business for that. We're not. And that is not our intention, and we won't put up with it. We don't want to see the police other than if a policeman wants to come in and vape. We really don't. You know, we work, our other shop is right next to the Timber Mesa Fire Department in Lakeside there. And we see them all the time. Oops, sorry. I don't know where this was. Oops, I think I broke it. I guess I won't get the permit now.
We'll fix it.
There, I can fix a mouse. But, no, and those are legitimate concerns, and I fully expected to be asked several of the questions you've asked, and they're good questions. Me personally, I don't smoke and I don't vape, but it's a business, and we want to run it on the up and up, just like we run our other business, and be a good contributing business to the community, get involved with the community, just like we're involved with Lakeside, with different things. We want to have a home, and that's our intent. And if we violate something, I would fully expect that you call me back in front of you and say, hey, what's going on? We talked about this. And hopefully that would never happen.
My question kind of stems from, you're selling the product there. Why do people need to hang out there and consume it? Why can't they go home or somewhere
Well,
else?
there are samples that they can try, so they can sit there and try it with the hopes that they'll buy it. It's a business, you know. Like I said, when I filled out the application, everything was kind of rush because they said 3 weeks, and our intent was to try to open for December 1st, which is not going to happen. It's just running too late for the Christmas season. So when I put in things like the pool table, and we've kind of backtracked on that because we looked at the suite. The suite's only 1,100 square feet. There's really not room for that. It's more going to be a few couches and a coffee table. And that's, like I said, part of it is there's a teaching of vapes. If you're going from cigarettes to vape and you've never used it, there's all different kinds. Like I said, I don't smoke, so, you know, that part of it I don't do, but my son Levi and Jennifer, who's not here, have worked in the industry for a few years and are very knowledgeable in it. And I think it'll be a safe environment. And we're not targeting 18-year-olds. I mean, there's plenty of people our age that smoke or that vape. You just might not see them. So I think it's a good business for up here.
Okay. Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, how long is the lease that you've entered into with Zell Corporation?
5 years. They're just a representative.
Okay. And then you have a location in Lakeside, you indicated?
No, that's a separate business. That's a dog grooming business.
Okay. Okay. You don't have a current vaping
No,
business
sir.
right now?
No,
Okay.
no.
That's all I
Other
have.
questions? I have a question for staff, and that question is, could we, should the need arise, attach the same condition to this as we did to the residential rehabilitation center, where we just said we'll review it on a periodic basis through, say, the first year, and treat it the same way?
Certainly, the commission could look at that as a condition if they felt that that would be appropriate. From a staff level, if you're going to go that way, we'd prefer to see, you know, maybe a 6-month and a 12-month. That makes it a little bit easier for us from a scheduling standpoint, and so we're not quite so repetitive coming back to the commission.
Okay. But excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if we assume, if we chose to do that, and at some point in the interim, there were something egregious that transpired, which you might not see or you know, presume would happen or whatever, any one of us or I guess any one of us could come back to you and say, hey, we need to revisit this earlier.
Certainly. Yeah, that's always an option with a conditional use permit.
Okay?
I have another question, Mr. Chair, for the applicant.
Yes, sir.
You'd mentioned that the vaping solution can have nicotine in it. If somebody doesn't have nicotine in it, why would they be vaping it? Could there be other things that they'd vape?
No, the people, vaping, I think, developed into a fad a few years ago for some people. For whatever reason, they pick it up, and there's a lot of different flavors of it. Levi, maybe you can address that a little bit better.
Of course. So are there any other substances besides nicotine that can be vaporized? And if so, how would you know what your patrons were vaping?
So when it comes, my name is Levi Thornton. I live at 4431 White Mountain Road.
Well, go ahead.
So to go on your question about the purpose of vaping, so a lot of people get stuck on habits. Half the time people, when they try to quit smoking, they'll just stick their arm out of the car window and not even use their cigarette. Now, when it goes to non-nicotine, basically you're just enabling their habit so that they can still do something without having to drive on the nicotine anymore. Generally, when somebody starts vaping, they'll go from smoking to vaping, and within 2 to 3 years, they're completely done. They don't pick it up anymore.
Are there any other substances that can be vaped?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, how would you know what they were vaping? I mean, they could potentially put anything in the vape they wanted to, right? That could be vaporized. And how would you know what they were vaping?
Well, the idea is that they're not just coming in to vape. That's not the idea, is that it's to demonstrate product. They can try product, they can sit there for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, trying different flavors. It's not to just come in off the street and hang out. That's not the purpose of it.
So an extension of that question would be, are you going, would you plan on prohibiting people from bringing in vaping material of their own other than whatever the utensil is that you use for the vaping? Because otherwise, how would you know what they were vaping?
Well, I question everybody that walks through the door. How can I help you? What are you using today? And if it's something that's considered a controlled substance like marijuana or something like that, because I currently work at a store, I immediately ask them to leave because I don't condone, I don't use any of that stuff. I don't know anything about that. I can't help them even if I wanted to. I don't know anything about that. Now, the purpose of where you guys are asking about why they need to hang out and do samples and stuff, it's a lot like going to a car lot. Would you go buy a car without test driving it? Now, how do you know that you're going to like something that's strawberry flavored if you've never done it? At the shop I currently work at, we have over 300 flavors. And there's people that will literally sit down and try 200 of them and not like any of them. So when you want to try to quit smoking, the last thing you want is to try something and you absolutely dislike it.
Sure, but a lot of other consumers face that risk, such as a grocery store. You tend to buy things, take it home, and use it there and see if you like it. So again, I'm still just kind of puzzled on the whole hanging out. I don't really have a problem with the vape shop, but I'm just the unknowns there for the lounge portion of it.
If I
I
might,
understand the point.
I'm sorry. If I might, I understand your analogy of a grocery store, but when you're talking about somebody who's smoked for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, they have a habit. It's not like a grocery store, we go to get food to eat. And granted, we all don't like something sometimes, and a lot of stores will honor it and say, okay, give it back. In this case, people are very picky. I know from my discussions with Levi and Jennifer, is people are very picky, like Levi said. If they can't get something to get on their journey away from the cigarettes that they'll stick to, or even attempt to stick to, so you get a bad flavor, well, it's easier to pick up a pack of cigarettes and just go keep on your habit. So that's the idea of what Levi's talking about with tasting. It's with all due respect, I think it's a little bit different than going to a grocery store and not liking a box of cereal or something like that, because we have to eat.
My understanding from having two in my office who have used e-cigarettes, that you start with a higher amount of nicotine and then you work your way down. But isn't it in a cylinder to where they could not bring a substance in and try to put, like marijuana or any of the other?
Yes, they're in sealed bottles.
Okay, that's what I thought, from what I knew.
But you can refill them. You sell refills, correct?
We don't sell refills. They come from the manufacturer, they get put on the shelves, and there's no refilling process. It's you buy a brand new one.
But what I'm saying is that the vape machine, the vape cartridge itself, there's a battery on it to heat it up, and then there's a canister or container. Those things you can unscrew and then get a bottle that has the liquid and actually refill it.
Yes.
So somebody could come into your premise with their own, and you would have no idea what was actually inside of it.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, perhaps it's a little bit out of norm, but if I could ask the applicant a question that may help clarify some of this process.
Let's do so.
I know, like when you go to a shooting range, you're not allowed to bring your own ammunition into the shooting range. You have to purchase the ammunition there. that you use at the shooting range. If you then choose to take the excess ammunition or purchase more and take it home with you, they'll certainly do that for you. In this case, with the vape shop, do you allow people to bring outside vaping materials and consume them on the premises? Or do they only consume on the premises what you sell or what you provide to them?
They only consume what we sell.
Okay.
Let me add too, I know people have reservations about the idea of a lounge and things like that. If, and I don't believe there will be, if it turns out to be something that we don't expect, I'm not going to keep that part open. That's not good business, because I don't want to deter other people, if they see, I don't know what to call them, undesirables, shall we say, that's going to deter somebody else from coming in. And that's not what we want to do. And like I said, it's not to be like a bar lounge or anything like that. It's a minimal amount of time, less than an hour, and out. And Levi's not going to let people just hang there all day. That's not the idea of it. When I first approached this idea and talked to Mr. Justin there, we talked on the phone a couple times because he wasn't sure if I needed a permit, and we talked about it and different things about it, and that's what brought us here. And we wanted to do it right. I didn't want to just open the business and, oh, well, nobody will notice. We put a couple couches in. We do everything on the up and up. And that's the way we want to be. So I will tell you, if it's not working out, I will close that portion before you pull me in here. That's my word to you, is I want a clean, upstanding business, whether we agree with the vaping part of it or not, because people have different feelings on that. The business is the business. We want to make it work. We want to make it so we're contributing taxes to the city. When we're selling products, we want to be a good partner with the city, just like we try to be in Lakeside. And that's our intent. You don't know me from Adam, but I'll give you my word on that it will not turn into something that everybody has in the back of their mind. Because I don't want to stand up here multiple times and answer to you as to why it didn't go right. That's not my intention. And I've been in businesses a long time. I'm not a young whippersnapper anymore. So I would just ask that you approve it, and if you want to review it, more than happy to have review.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
I just want to make a clarifying statement and kind of answer Commissioner Bishop's question. I was at the Southwest Cannabis Conference in early October as part of my day job, and you actually can vape marijuana and other herbs and stuff like that. So tobacco and nicotine aren't the only thing that can be vaped. And from what we've indicated in our material is you're not planning on selling anything that has cannabis in it or any type of marijuana product in your vaping store.
Nothing, no things to use marijuana in.
Okay.
Bong type things, if you will.
So the shop that I currently work at has a paraphernalia shop next door, and they cannot buy stuff for their dry herbs or whatever at our location because they use a different piece that goes on the top of the vape.
Yeah.
Our stuff just goes just for the vape juice. We don't have them for anything else. We have people coming all the time asking us if we have different pieces, and we don't. There's just no purpose in our business of having that kind of stuff.
So your business is completely tobacco and that's it, or nicotine related?
Completely vape.
Completely vape related.
Vape related, okay.
We're not going to sell no cigarettes, no cigars, no chewing tobacco, none of that.
It's a lounge, so unless somebody's coming in with an empty vaporizer, you don't know what they have.
We do know whether they're trying product or not. It's not for them to come in and just sit and hang out.
Well, but there's a pool table and couches. So,
Well, if
and
there's
it's
a pool
lounge.
table, like I said earlier,
We're not talking about a vape. We're not talking about a store that sells vape supplies. We're talking about a store that sells vape supplies, and people can hang out and consume product on the premises.
our product on the premises.
I just don't know how you're going to control that very well. I mean, if you have 10 or 15 people in there, How would you know if somebody doesn't switch something out?
Levi is very attentive. He runs a tight ship. All I can ask is,
Yeah, I mean, the only sort of parallel that I can draw to that is that, again, this is just for our consideration, you know, I'm not taking a stance on it one way or the other yet, but there's no way, if you go into, to your statement, there's no way that any, whatever you want, lounge up here knows factually, right, absolutely, that people are coming in there to consume something that's only there, that's only purchased there. I mean, no business can be run that tightly. I mean, you could.
But we don't have a vape lounge either,
No,
so-
but I'm saying that, for instance, if there were a procedure that said when you come in, right, if you're bringing your utensil with you, right, it must be empty and you must have no other, you know, I mean.
But they're not selling this stuff either, so I mean, I guess the analogy would be more towards like a bar. Bars, you can't bring your own stuff in, you have.
But people do it, and we all know that. I mean, I'm saying unless you've got somebody standing at the door frisking people when they come in, you don't know that, you know? And I just don't want, again, I have no idea what the vaping process is like. I personally don't know anybody who does it. I can't, from a user standpoint, I can't identify. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a difference between, I mean, I'm going to apply the same standards in this particular case as I would if somebody were coming in and wanting to sell, I don't know, any other, I don't even want to say marginal, you know, from an acceptance standpoint, marginal product. So, Commissioner Clark.
if I might just say one thing. Commissioner Clark talked about cannabis, marijuana. You know, we all know what it is. I'm sure just about everybody knows what the smell is. It's very distinct. Even if you've never tried it, it's very distinct. I don't smoke it. I don't smoke anything. I think if somebody was somehow managed to smoke cannabis, which you can't unless you set it and light it, and these are lightless because they have an ignition coil, like I think Commissioner Bishop stated, or whoever stated, I apologize. I think you would know. And it's just like Chair Johnson said, any other business, they could walk in and smoke anything. I mean, you have people with medical marijuana cards walking around smoking stuff all the time, all around. Whether you agree with it or not, you know, it is what it is, and we will do our best. The intent is not to have disruptions, illegal, or anything like that.
But the vaporized substances smells, it has an odor to it, and so there's flavors and things like that.
Yes.
So a lot of those flavors can cover up the sense of other things, correct?
I don't think it would cover that up, do you? I think that's a very distinct odor. And like I said, understand that in order for cannabis to smoke it, you're burning it. You're putting it with a flame to it. You know, unless you're doing I know the medical, they extract juices and stuff, but they actually sell pens or something, or whatever they call them, for medical. So we don't have that.
My question is for Commissioner Bishop is what is it that you're worried about, I guess, for my education, if somebody does sneak in product and stuff like that, what is that you're worried about?
Well, I don't have a problem with the vape shop itself, but I don't know why you need to have a pool table and a couch and a lounge. Mm-hmm. Why can't it just be a place that sells the product, people take the product and they go home? Mm-hmm. I can't get my head around that. And I think, you know, if people are hanging around doing things and there's a mass of people, there's potential for issues.
The pool table, like I said in the diagram, possibly. we nixed that idea. And I'm telling you that in public. We don't have room for it. We just want to put the couches in. We're not going to put 15 couches in. Again, vaping is different. Like Levi said, people want to try different flavors. You know, each to his own.
Commissioner Adams.
I guess I've learned a lot about vaping in just a little while here, but I guess I could go along with that, but I would want some way to make sure that the environment stays the way you're saying. Whether that's come back in 6 months, a year, whatever the case may be, that's the reassurance I need to go forward, is to protect the environment there and all the situations that go around there. We don't want a bad situation or people talking about, well, don't go up there because something's happened. We want to avoid that. That's the insurance I need.
How will we know prior to the shop opening what the ventilation situation is like? I mean, do we open it and wait to find out if people next door are raising issues, or is it something that city employees can verify in some form or another?
You know, we certainly, our building official or building inspectors, they could go take a look at it from a system standpoint. Ultimately, the proof is going to be in the pudding, you know, and they may look at the ventilation systems and feel that they're adequate, and then we may get a phone call from the next door neighbor. So we can take proactive steps. That doesn't guarantee that it's going to address 100%. If we receive those complaints based on this condition, we then would get in contact with the applicant and say, look, we're getting complaints. You guys need to take care of this. We try to take care of things, you know, on an informal basis first.
Right.
If it continued, if they found that it's just impossible, we can't take care of that, then ultimately we would schedule it back for you guys. And, you know, you would have the option to revoke the conditional use permit. They would still be able to sell, they just wouldn't be able to consume on site.
And also, they will complain to our landlord probably before they complain to the city. And like I said earlier, the landlord has held us to those standards that we cannot disturb our neighbors. And as far as any disturbances, if you want the police to stop by randomly, we don't have a problem with it.
Commissioner Clark?
I guess this is discussion with the commission right now, right? I think that's where we're at this phase. And I think for me, where I had some reservations, but the more I think about this, it said transmittal memos were sent to all affected agencies. I think some of us are sitting here trying to play the role of law enforcement, and I'm assuming it was sent to the chief of police. He didn't, the police department didn't respond. They didn't indicate that they had significant concerns with it or anything like that. And so for me, I feel like, you know, if we're kind of playing, you know, Monday morning quarterback with law enforcement. If they didn't want to weigh in on it, then I think that, you know, that their silence is acquiescing to the business. And you know, I think the applicant's right. If you know, if there's several other suites that are next door to it that are having problems, they're going to revoke the lease a lot faster than we could revoke the CUP. And so I think that you know, and then in my mind, I'm thinking too, what's to stop, you know, 5 or 7 people from just congregating out on the sidewalk after purchasing it? You know, obviously they probably wouldn't do it in the wintertime, but if they were congregating out in the front, you know, in front of some of the other shops and stuff like that, there's really nothing we could do to stop that. If we don't approve the CUP and people just go in, buy the product, and then they congregate out there, I mean, there might be a loitering issue or something like
They have
that.
signs up there. I think, I'm pretty sure they have signs up there for no loitering.
I just don't know how, you know, that we're going to be able to solve all of the issues with this. And so I think that I like Chairman Johnson's idea of, you know, I don't know that we need to review it at 3, 6, and 12 months. I think a 12-month is more than adequate. You know, we kind of look in on them in a year and see if, you know, everything they're purporting is what they've indicated to us. And I know that, you know, we'll know by then whether we've gotten enough complaints or we've gotten any kind of calls or anything like that. And plus, they're going to put a significant amount of investment into fixing up the suite and buying product and doing that. I would, hate for them to have to do that on a 3-month time frame or a 6-month time frame. I think a year gives them an adequate enough time to get their business up and running. And
But still, with the city's input, should anything transpire in the interim, right? I mean, should we have an issue in the interim? Okay.
that's my thoughts on it as far as the discussion goes. I don't know how the other commissioners are feeling, but that's where I'm leaning towards, so.
Okay, further questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Very much.
Okay, very much. We'll bring it back. We have a motion absent a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have multiple seconds, Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Chair, if I could clarify the
Actually,
motion.
Yeah, let's go back
Want to go
before we.
back to the, okay,
The motion that was made was staff recommendations. It did not include
Okay, you're correct.
the
Thank you, sir.
12-month review. So
Thank you, sir.
if the commission wishes to make that, we probably need a new motion with that condition
Okay.
added.
okay. I will remove to approve conditional use permit 602-04-199 submitted by John J. Clute Jr. on behalf of Vape Militia LLC to allow for a vaping lounge at 4431 South White Mountain Road, that being assessor's parcel number 212-03-157E, subject to staff recommendations and additionally including the requirement that this CUP be reviewed at the end of a 12-month period for compliance. Is that all right? Okay, so
I'll second
now
it.
we have a second, multiple seconds again, all right? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. You want to qualify your, you can qualify your dissent if you'd like, or you can just leave it at nay.
Oh, nay.
All right. So we have 5 in favor and one opposed, so the motion carries. Mr. Tregaskis?
With all conditional use permits, there is a 7-day appeal period. If no appeal is received by the city clerk within that 7-day period, this conditional use permit will become effective.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate it, and indulging us and helping us understand a bit better what it is that you are trying to get done, okay? All right, moving on. Let's see, we are at item D under new business, which is consideration of conditional use permit 602-04-200 submitted by R.L. Wendt to allow for a senior living facility at West Joe Tank Road, that being assessor's parcel number 309-30-001Q. Ms. Fechtelkotter.
Thank you, Chair and
Almost forgot your
Commissioners.
name.
It's okay. A conditional use permit application has been submitted by R.L. Wendt to allow for a senior living facility at 4800 West Joe Tank Road, that being APN 309-30001Q. The applicant is proposing to build a 23-bed senior living facility on the parcel with 60-foot setbacks along the west and south property lines. They plan to use natural materials such as wood and stone and preserve as many of the trees on the property as possible. The maximum number of residents would be limited to 25 with approximately 8 staff members. Condition number 9 of ordinance number 509 states that there shall be a minimum 30-foot setback along the northwest side of Joe Tank Road. In addition, the Bison Ridge Master Plan calls out a minimum 50-foot setback along Clark Road, State Route 260. The subject property is currently zoned PUD, which is Planned Unit Development, through Ordinance 509, and is considered part of the Bison Ridge development. As part of the Bison Ridge Master Plan, the subject property is called out as Commercial PUD, and uses shall conform to the C2 General Commercial Zone. Senior living facilities require a CUP in the C2 zone. A copy of the submitted site plan, elevations, and conditions of Ordinance 509 have been attached for your review. The current zoning of the surrounding properties includes to the north, south, and east PUD, to the west R115, which is single-family residential, manufactured homes excluded, 15,000 square feet. The current land uses of the surrounding properties includes to the north, vacant PUD, the south, the overlook at Bison Ridge, east, vacant PUD, and the west, residential. Transmittal memos were sent to all affected agencies, and applicable comments received include Navajo County Department of Health stated that the kitchen will need to be permitted through the Navajo County Department of Health Safety. The property was posted and letters were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. At the time the staff report was prepared, there were no comments received. We did receive a phone call from an area neighbor expressing concerns regarding lighting of the facility. After reviewing the standards for review, the zoning ordinance, discussion with the applicant, and because the request is consistent with the City of Show Low general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve conditional use permit C 602-04-200 submitted by R.L. Wendt to allow for a senior living facility at 4800 West Joe Tank Road, that being APN 309-30001Q, subject to the following conditions. All development shall be in compliance with all conditions of 509, in addition to complying with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements, including building permit and sign requirements. All development shall comply with Section 15-144V, visual corridors and aesthetics. 3, a tree preservation and revegetation plan shall be submitted and approved by city staff prior to the removal of any trees on the subject property. 4, as indicated on the Bison Ridge Master Plan, there shall be a minimum 50-foot setback along the east property line adjacent to Clark Road, State Route 260. As outlined in Condition 9 of Ordinance 509, there shall be a minimum 30-foot setback along the northwest side of Joe Tank Road, and this includes parking lots. 6, as indicated in Condition 5 of Ordinance 509, the applicant shall be responsible for required roadway improvements to Joe Tank Road. 7, as indicated on the city's master plan, trails and connections to trails shall be included in the city's development of the property. 8, all development shall comply with Section 15146C2H, parking and lighting. 9, landscaping shall be installed and maintained in compliance with Section 15160D7. And 10, all development shall be in substantial conformance with the submitted site plan.
Thank you again, ma'am.
Staff as well as the applicant are available for questions.
Thank you. All right. Again, with questions for staff.
I have a question.
Sir.
If they at any time wanted to expand this to have a, more beds on site, would they have to come back to seek the permission of the commission for an expanded CUP, or what are we basically authorizing at this point? How
So
many
what
beds?
you're authorizing this evening is what was included in the application. The application was for up to 25 beds or individuals there at the property, with the site plan pretty consistent to what you see on the conceptual site plan that was submitted. If they chose to come back later for an expansion, either with additional buildings or additional beds, they would need to come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for that.
Okay.
All right. Further questions for staff? Questions for the applicant? I have. So if we have somebody there, would you please come forward and identify yourself for the record?
Good evening, Council. Deidre Kearney with the project representing R.L. Wendt.
Okay, thank you. My question is, and you may be able to answer it, maybe not, but when I was out there stomping around, aside from a dog on the property to the south who didn't particularly care for me being there, There are a bunch of, chalk lines or whatnot. Are those something that you guys did? I mean, is that a sort of a footprint for where the building itself is going to be?
Can I?
I'm sorry.
I'm going to add my superintendent if I
all right.
can.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
But there has been some due diligence done for the purposes of just ascertaining budget considerations. So there was I believe, a bore test done, site test done, and we needed to mark the footprint of the building in order to do that. But I'll let you address.
Okay.
No, that's accurate. Kim Kieser, Concho, Arizona. And there are 4 corner stakes in place that would represent the general footprint of the building. As you look at the elevation site plan there, you'll see that it's H-shaped. Well, the stakes are kind of in a big square that represent each of those corners.
Okay.
And then in order to facilitate construction equipment, we would need to clear approximately 20 to 30 feet outside of those string lines in order to accommodate for construction.
Okay. All right. That answers that question. The other question that I had was, do the same parking requirements apply for, let's say, the senior center as we would for any other, commercial venture for that matter?
Right, we would evaluate this just based off of our city code regarding parking and the requirements for essentially an assisted living facility is what we'd look at there. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but they're fairly minimal for this type of facility. Typically, the residents.
I think you shared initially when we looked at those regulations, one stall per 2 rooms, because the residents wouldn't all be driving.
Right, I get it.
So approximately 12 spaces for this.
Okay.
And I would add, we would like to use dispersed parking so that we take advantage of some of the mature trees that are there
Right.
and the other landscaping, and so it's not monolithic parking.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for that. Further questions for the staff or the applicant? Okay, seeing none.
As I'm understanding it, then it will be, the individuals who will be here will be totally assisted. They will not have any kitchen facility in their room.
Correct. There will be a common kitchen and common living area. And to speak, Commissioner Clark, to your question about additional rooms, it is our intention not to grow. There's a movement among senior living to create more home-like communities, smaller residential areas where there is kind of a philosophy of community, and we believe that this is as large as we'd ever intend. Should we need growth, we'd be looking at an additional site somewhere in the county to build an additional home.
As a clarification for Commissioner Behrens, one facility, one kitchen facility will serve all the residents, but each resident would have the opportunity to have a microwave and something of that nature in their own room for their convenience, but cooking would be at that central facility.
Further questions for the applicant? Anything further for staff before we open it for public commentary? Okay, thank you, folks. Appreciate it. We'll open it now to public comment. If there are any folks out there who have come forward, please, and state again your name for the record.
Thank you, Terry Major, Sholo. I was wondering when they were going to start building this facility, and the setback on the Joe Tank Road, are they including the parking lot as part of the 30-foot setback, or is it 30 foot then the parking lot? And then how are they going to control the dust on Joe Tank Road as their construction of this facility is going to be made?
Shall I bring the applicant back up, or can you, from the city standpoint, comment on that, sir?
The first question I would defer to the applicant. As far as timing for the conditional use permit, it requires that they begin construction within 12 months and complete within 18. So the window from the city perspective would be, you got to be done within 18 months from the time that this conditional use permit becomes effective. Generally, their time frame is a little bit quicker than that. As far as the setbacks go, it's a 30-foot setback and then the parking lot. So you'll have that additional buffer. And dust, they are required to pave Joe Tank Road to the end of their property. So they'll be taking Joe Tank through their property. Typically, the paving is not done until after they've brought in all the heavy equipment and that sort of thing. When you're bringing in excavators and asphalt don't match up very well. But they are required to have dust control measures in place. They would have to have a water truck in and that sort of thing so that they were not stirring up additional dust. because of
Is
the
that
construction.
enforced by the city?
It's an ADEQ requirement. We also enforce it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any, does that address everybody's questions, I guess? Okay. Any further input from the public? Okay, then we'll close the public session. We will bring it back to the commission for a motion.
I move to approve CUP 602-04-200 submitted by R.L. Wendt to allow for a senior living facility at 4800 West Joe Tank Road, that being APN number 309-30-001Q, subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Disclaimer, sir?
Yes, sir. As we've already heard this evening, conditional use permits are valid 7 days after the action by the commission this evening, provided that no appeal is received by the city clerk within that 7-day period.
You better get construction going pretty quick because we have many more meetings like this. I'm going to be one of the first occupants.
No, you're not.
Thank you very much for your input. I sure do appreciate it. We sure do appreciate it. All right, we're on to item E on the agenda for this evening, which is consideration of conditional use permit 602-04-201 submitted by Perkins Cinders, Inc., to allow for the expansion of a non-conforming use at 930 First Knoll Drive, that being assessor's parcel number 210-01-022B. Finally, again, Ms. Fechtelkotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for the last time. Conditional use permit, or CUP 602-04-201, was submitted by Perkins Cinders to allow for the expansion of a non-conforming use at 930 North First Knoll Drive, that being APN 210-01-022B. Perkins Cinders has an existing sand and gravel operation located at 930 North First Knoll Drive. They wish to consolidate their operations at one location and build a new office on the subject property. The subject property was annexed into the city from Navajo County on October 16, 2007. The subject property was zoned A General when it was located in Navajo County. When properties are annexed into the city, the zoning designation that most closely matches the previous zoning district is used. In this case, the zoning district that most closely matched the Navajo County's A General designation was AR-43. That's agricultural residential, 43,000 square feet. Sand and gravel operations are not allowed in the AR-43 zone. However, because the subject property was operating legally as a sand and gravel operation in the county when it was annexed into the city limits, it became a legal non-conforming use. According to city code, a non-conforming use is defined as a use or structure or land which was lawfully established and maintained prior to the adoption of this division, but which, under this division, does not conform to the use regulations for the district in which it is located. Any expansion of a non-conforming use must be approved through a conditional use permit. The current zoning of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, AR 43, to the south, A General, which is A General zoning district for Navajo County, to the east and west, AR 43. The current land uses of the surrounding properties includes, to the north, Forest Service, to the south, Perkins Cinders, to the east, Shooting Range, and to the west, Forest Service. Transmittal memos were sent to all affected agency and no applicable comments were received. The property was posted, and letters were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. No comments were received. After reviewing the standards for review, the zoning ordinance, discussions with the applicant, and because the request is consistent with the City of Show Low general plan, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve conditional use permit 04-201 submitted by Perkins Cinders to allow for the expansion of a non-conforming use at 930 North First Knoll Drive, that being APN 210-01-022B, subject to the following conditions. 1, all development should comply with all applicable federal, state, and local requirements, including building permit and sign requirements. 2, parking and lighting shall requirements of section 15-146 of city code shall be met. And 3, all development shall be in substantial conformance with the city submitted site plan. Staff as well as the applicant are available for questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You've earned your money tonight. All right. Fellow commissioners, questions for staff? No, none? Questions for the applicant? All right, none. We will open it for comments from the remaining public. If anybody wants to come forward and say something, and seeing nobody, we'll close the public session and bring it back to the commission for a motion.
I'll move to approve conditional use permit 602-04-201 submitted by Perkins Cinders Incorporated to allow for the expansion of a non-conforming use at 930 North First Knoll Drive, that being APN 210-01-022B, subject to staff recommendations. And recommend next time we have an applicant who has a young son in the audience, maybe we'll move him up. I have to commend.
Had you not said that, I would have done it myself.
I have
Thank
to,
you, sir. I appreciate it.
commend Mr. Perkins for his son and how well he did. I know his mom would be very impressed with how well he behaved tonight, so he did a great job.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have multiple seconds from Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Bishop. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. You want to do it one more time?
Why not? As with any conditional use permit, there is a 7-day appeal period. If no appeal is received by the city clerk within the 7-day period, this conditional use permit will become effective. Sounds like I've done that about 201 times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we do follow the book, don't we? All right, that would bring us to item 7 on the agenda, which is call to the public. Any citizen wishing to talk about something that wasn't part of this evening's agenda could come forward and do so at this particular moment. If there are no takers, we'll dispense with the reading of the boilerplate. And seeing none, we'll close the call to the public and bring it back for approval of the minutes. We have 2 approvals for this evening. One's for the regular meeting of September the 12th of 2017. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All right. Second?
Second.
All right, multiple seconds. No further discussion, I assume. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. All opposed, nay. We're good, all right. And item B, which is the Planning and Zoning Study Session minutes from the meeting of October 10th, 2017. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All right, second? All right, we're done. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, minutes are taken care of. Leading us to the summary of current events, and we'll start with Commissioner Clark.
I just want to tell everybody, thank you for tonight during the vaping session. It was great to be able to dialogue and kind of come to an agreement. And I think that that's what we don't often get to do that. So it's nice when we do get to discuss and do that. And just wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season.
Sir, Commissioner Bishop.
Yeah, same here. I'm not sure if we're meeting again before the holidays, but for everyone watching and everyone in the audience, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Behrens.
The city looks very nice. The decorations are up, and the music was sounding as we approached this evening, and it's very pleasing for everybody to see.
Commissioner Adams?
I agree with what they said.
What they said, yes. Commissioner Berry?
Well, I just, it's a little late, but I wanted to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
All right. You're done? All right. I'll leave it at that. I share the thoughts for the happiest of holidays for staff and for those of you who have stayed with us and those who left early. I want everybody to be careful out there, and I want everybody to pray for rain or snow or something.
Or something.
Or something. Moisture in some form or another. Yes, all right. And when school is out, be careful with the little ones. Mr. Karaskis.
As indicated earlier, this will be our last meeting of the year. We do not have anything on the agenda for the first meeting in December. And by rules of procedure, the second meeting in December is always canceled. So Merry Christmas to the members of the commission.
Thank you.
Secondly, just like to remind both the commission as well as members of the public that our annual Christmas light parade will be held this Saturday evening. That's at 6 o'clock. We expect good weather as opposed to in the past where perhaps bundling up was required. That starts at 6, runs the normal parade route, and encourage everybody to attend that. Other than that, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, and to my colleagues.
Can I jump in for seconds? I
Yes.
apologize for that, but one thing that Mr. Tregaska said, the city does a employee holiday luncheon kind of thing, and I know that commissioners and city council members are always invited. I find that a lot of time I'm the only one there, usually because I'm hanging out with Morgan and he can't kick me out of his office, so he just invites me over to come with him.
No, there's just no place else.
But-
There's no place else where two attorneys can gather. is
Yes,
there?
that's true. We don't have many friends, so. But we, it's a fun time to go and get to meet staff and to talk to other people and stuff. So I would encourage you, I'm sure that Kim can send out the invite, but the city has a great staff. Really, some of my close friends are members of the city staff. So I would encourage you to take the opportunity to attend that if you're available for it.
All right, we will take your thoughts under advisement. All right, with that, we're done.